Welcome back to Emerge, the health podcast for busy, high-performing women. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Swenson Ridley, and I'm really excited to be joined today by Dr. Carrie Lamb, who is a board certified in family medicine and anti-aging and regenerative medicine. And she's also completed her fellowship in anti-aging, metabolic, and functional medicine, and is a graduate of the Institute of Functional Medicine's Applying Functional Medicine in Clinical Practice. That's quite the long certification there. Her career focus is in primary care along with functional and integrative medicine with an emphasis on anti-aging, lifestyle medicine, and nutrition. So Dr. Carrie, welcome to the show, or Dr. Lamb, which do you prefer?
Hi. Oh yeah, there's multiple Dr. Lamb, so you can call me Dr. Carrie.
Okay. And I know you work with your husband, right?
My brother.
Your brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I missed that.
So he's another Dr. Lamb, and then my father is also a Dr. Lamb. So that's
okay. Lots of Dr. Lambs.
Yes.
Well, welcome to the show. I haven't really dove in too much into like the anti-aging and regenerative medicine kind of conversation. So I'm excited to have that. But as always, I like to start with just kind of hearing some of your story and your journey and how you got into more of the functional world versus conventional world and what that's
yes.
like. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I am a daughter of a father who also is a doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so his story kind of relates to my story because he started out, he's a medical doctor and MD also that went through school, went through conventional medicine and found that it didn't help him while he was on his health journey. So this health journey that he went on, he started getting palpitations. He started being really fatigued, and he went to see doctors, and they just wanted to put medications to help suppress, some of these symptoms that he was going through, but not really find the root cause of why. Why am I so tired? Why am I gaining weight? Why am I having heart palpitations? And so he ultimately was able to self-navigate naturally and got off his medications, and found this thing called adrenal fatigue, and was really able to find his health journey recovery for himself. And so decided, hey, many people are probably dealing with this problem. And what type of people are we talking about? High functioning, type A personalities, go-getters. They are always on the go. They're very successful, but they're very stressed. And so we found that this stress response definitely affects the body, and in a lot of different ways. Symptomatically, it can be fatigue or palpitations or weight or hormone imbalance, or the gut goes high wire. So he decided to create, this telephone coaching, nutritional coaching website. I went through medical school knowing that I wanted to come out and do more of this integrative medicine already because of what he went through. And we've seen now thousands of cases and helped people through this adrenal fatigue or get better from their hormone imbalance or their gut issues together. And so me and my brother were both, yes, medical doctors, to be able to not only understand the conventional side, but the functional side. The functional medicine is basically to get to the root cause. A lot of times you go see a doctor and you say you have a symptom and they give you medications, right? But they don't really say, hey, why? Is it your lifestyle? Is it your diet, your exercise? Is it a nutritional deficiency or some type of toxin that is causing imbalance? And so functional medicine is the why. And then integrative medicine is the toolbox, whether it's natural or therapies or Eastern or Western, like integrative integrates all of it together. And so that's why I think it's very important for whole person care to look at the whole body in a more preventive, and also being able to deal with these issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm in the world of, and I've been sharing more on the show, I'm finishing up a PhD in integrative and natural medicine that's based in quantum physics, which brings like a whole other conversation to all of that too.
Yeah, you're way smarter than all of us.
No, I doubt it, but I'm still like mind blown in most of my classes. But it's so important, and it's so important to connect all the dots. So I have all kinds of directions we can go with this. But speaking to fatigue and our adrenal function, and I've talked on the show some, and maybe you have some input. Are you familiar with Ari Whiffin's work around adrenal fatigue and some of the stuff that he
specifically found? Mhm.
It's okay if not, but kind of the idea of like HPA axis and
Yes,
hypothalamus pituitary adrenal dysfunction. So from your standpoint, like what are some of the signs of that? Because most of who listens to the show are type A high performing women who are driven and don't take any time for themselves. Me too.
yes,
So what
we
are the things
agree.
we should look for, and like how do we differentiate, is it hormones? Is it my thyroid? Is it that I haven't slept in 50 years? Is it like what
Yes,
what helps
yes.
us navigate that? Does that make sense?
Very, very good question. And people are always asking. And so, yeah, we do have a quiz, right, to see, hey, which part of the circuit? So, adrenal fatigue, like you said, hypothalamus pituitary adrenal HPA axis historically has been thought of for how your body responds to stress. You see a bear, or you're yelled at by your boss. Your epinephrine and your norepinephrine is put out by your adrenals to help fight, right? But then under chronic stress, um, uh, your epinephrine and norepinephrine cannot always just be put out without repercussions because it's very inflammatory. So your adrenals also put out cortisol, which is the anti-inflammatory hormone to kind of suppress that epinephrine and norepinephrine. But over time, your adrenals can just get tired, okay, of putting out cortisol and epinephrine and norepinephrine. So what are the symptoms? We go through stages, a lot of different stages. In the beginning, people with adrenal fatigue in the very beginning stages might just be like, oh, wow, I had a really stressed day. I couldn't sleep very well. And I'm very tired this morning, so I'm going to drink a coffee. So they drink that coffee, they perk right up, and that's fine. But then as they go along every day, they start to feel like, oh, wow, I need not only one coffee, and now I need two coffees, or I need energy drinks to kind of get through my day. I have to deal with the yelling patients, or I have to run around the house with my children, and so they seem to get a little more tired. And then sometimes they feel like their circadian rhythm is off, where can't sleep at night. That's also what happens. And then you feel like afternoon slumps, where after you eat lunch, you feel really, really tired in the afternoon, like you need to take a nap. That also starts to happen. And then as the symptoms start to come, maybe you go see the doctor, and they run thyroid test, and probably comes back normal. Okay, that happens all the time because they only do like very minimal testing. And so then you start gaining weight, and people can have PMS symptoms. A lot of times women go through and say, hey, PMS is normal, just deal with it. But no, PMS is not normal. And so you should find out why you're having PMS, whether it's a hormone imbalance, right? Or even menopause. Women in the 40s or 50s, they start having hot flashes, or they start being more moody or aggressive, and then they say, hey, it's just menopause. Everyone has to go through it. But no, it's not. You don't have to deal with the hot flashes. You don't have to deal with it so ungracefully. There's always ways to be able to help those hormone balancing. And so unfortunately, society nowadays is just like, hey, women deal with it. But no, all right. So we need to stand up for ourselves and say, this is not normal. Let's find the root cause. And so if you're very high functioning and you feel like, hey, something is kind of off and you need to find out why, and you're not getting answers, there's hope, right? There's hope for people like you guys. And so whether it's the sympathetic pathway, some women also, they start getting very anxious, and they have a lot of bloating after they eat. That is the gut and the neurotransmitter response, okay, where you have a leaky gut and then you're not eating well, or you start having toxins in your body that you're making antibodies to, and those antibodies can go and attack your thyroid or make hormone imbalance, or your immune system flare. So it's not, I would say it's not only the HPA axis that we're looking at, but really the whole system. I call it the neuroendometabolic stress response, because stress affects every part of your body. So it's just, and it can come out differently. Like we listed out so many different types of symptoms. And so an experienced provider would be able to step back and say, hey, all these symptoms are related to each other. It's not just you have heart palpitations, go to a cardiologist. And it's not just like, oh, you have gut issues, go to a gastroenterologist. But hey, maybe they can both be related to each other.
Yeah, I love that. And, it's so needed in our medical approach to not compartmentalize everything as one individual part. Like everything is working together and it's all connected. And I love to have other providers on here who also talk about how everyone thinks related to stress, because I harp on it and I feel like people get tired of me talking about it, but it's true. So,
It is.
so in terms of how we go about, then approaching that, because essentially from everything you listed, it's, you know, there can be lots of different causes and lots of different symptoms that you experience. Ultimately, it's all kind of coming back to the similar pathway. And I like how you explained it with I forget the whole thing, but we've got neurological stuff going, we've got hormonal stuff going, we've got our physical side of things going as well. So what are some of your favorite, I'll just ask this, your favorite ways to help reduce stress? Because we all have stress coming at us, right? So how do you help clients, or what suggestions do you have to help decrease that perception of stress? Because ultimately it's actually a perception.
Yeah. Perceived stress, it
Yeah.
puts out cortisol just as much as actual stress, right? And
Yeah.
um, it's interesting that women, different than men, like to anticipate. All right, they always think ahead. For example, like my husband, I tell him he maybe wants to make one recipe, and he goes and he only buys two items for that recipe. But if you go and ask me to go buy, I'm thinking for the week, what do I need to make? Not just go to the grocery store to just buy one item. That's like not planning. And so I would say for women, understanding that yes, we tend to anticipate, and sometimes that can get out of hand, and it kind of blossoms. So doing what you can in organizing that and saying, how do I take a step back, and maybe making a checklist or jotting it down and not letting it overwhelm me, is a important, just a mindset to think about. Just that has also helped me, rather than saying, okay, I have all these things to do for the week, but what can I actually do today? Okay. The number one thing I would say that I recommend for patients is breathing exercises. Adrenal breathing, I call it, where you actually are teaching your parasympathetic response to calm down. Because a lot of times we're so stressed, the only way to really get rid of epinephrine and norepinephrine and the cortisol to calm down is that vagal response of breathing. And it's a special type of breathing where you definitely use your abdomen to breathe. The diaphragm comes down because that's where your vagal nerve is. And you have the belly come out when you're breathing in, and then the belly goes back in. And it's not a deep breath. That's very important that I like to say. It's more 70% of a breath, where it's kind of cyclical, and you are teaching your body to just calm down. Because sometimes I've had patients, even with deep breaths, overexcite themselves. They're like so concentrated on the breath, and then they kind of go the other way. So it's more just the experience of calmness, right? So breathing, number one, I would say, to deal with stress. Okay. Then the second thing would be to find out, let's see, what you can give your body, what nutrients you can give your body, okay, to help deal with stress. Meaning, what does your adrenals need, bottom line, to make cortisol, to make all 50 hormones that it makes? It needs cholesterol, like good cholesterol. It needs vitamin C and vitamin B5. So I usually tend to support my patients who are stressed, who want energy, with specifically, yes, vitamin C and a pantothenic acid, or pentathene, to help them make those hormones. And a good diet, obviously, free of chemicals, more organic, a lot of vegetables, less processed foods, okay, and being clean about it. So those, I would say, finding the breathing exercises, and then making sure you know what nutrients are good for your adrenals. But I would have a caveat that you should always do supplements with a provider. Don't just do it yourself, because I have had patients also backfire when they take vitamin C because their body was just not ready for it. I have had very, very sensitive patients who didn't even tolerate like a small dose of vitamin C. So it really is all dependent on your body, like understanding where your body is and how sensitive it is, because I've had patients who were very paradoxical, and that means usually a detox problem, like a congestion somewhere in their liver or their extracellular matrix, which causes them problem with detoxing.
Yeah, all good things. And I've said this like a million times on the show, but I know for me, especially when you're a type A high performer and someone tells me to like, oh, breathe. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That's way too easy. Like it can't possibly just be that simple. But ladies, this is coming from, I don't know how many interviews I've done where this has come up again, but breathing, and they've done scientific research on it now, like breathing and meditation actually have a huge impact on your body stress response and can help calm those processes down so that your adrenals and other things can function like they're supposed to.
Right.
So,
And like there's another tip I like. I, as a person, I love to say yes to things, right? A lot of times we are go-getters, we want to people please. And so whether it is learning how to say no to people, and there's one practical tip I like where I say, I'm sorry, I have something on my calendar for that day. And it's actually just the word something on my calendar. So I'm not lying, right? And I actually have something on my calendar. So it gives you an excuse, you know, like to say no. Like if you say, oh man, if you really have that feeling that I'm gonna push myself too much when I say yes to that, then just listen to your body. And sometimes if you yourself can't do it, like my husband is the one who actually says, no, you shouldn't do that. And he is the one that puts the brake on for me. So if you have that person that can kind of keep you accountable, that keeps you sane, that's also a good thing.
yeah, I think that's really important because I know a lot of the women I work with and who listen to his show, we're capable of spreading ourselves way too thin because it's, we're capable. And I was having this conversation with a client the other day, and she was like, I can care about this, but I don't have to be on the board. It's like, yes,
You're like,
we're learning. And so,
great.
we have to find those, like, do more of the things that really give us joy and bring us joy. And, we feel enlivened by or energized by is what I'm trying to say. And the things that don't really serve us, it's okay to say no. So I like the something on your calendar, or I've used the, I need to check my schedule, and that's like not quite as committed as I have something. Like it could be I'm resting all day or I'm going to the spa, like whatever.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, that's really great. So in kind of just summarizing this, and I know because we were doing kind of a quick and dirty on all this, when we're looking at fatigue and having low energy, I think we gave people kind of a whole sequela of things that may have come first or during or after that can give you some insight into, adrenals versus thyroid versus all of this. I've talked quite a bit about thyroid and how testing is not accurate in general. If you have symptoms like your thyroid's not working right, let's just call that what it is. But anything else we're missing, or for those who are, experiencing a pretty significant amount of fatigue, like anything
So
we can
yeah, if
on
your
that?
thyroid it tests fine, then you want to look at other types of testing for your adrenals and your hormones. And sometimes blood testing is not enough, even for that. So usually for the cortisol, I recommend getting the free hormones, the free cortisol. It can be done through the saliva. The free hormones can also be done through the saliva.
Yeah.
And so you would get a good circadian rhythm and see what throughout the day is causing your stress, where your cortisol levels are. And then like, so our the way we look at the testing is that, yeah, we have our neuroendometabolic stress response, and the HPA axis is one. So you can do the saliva testing. You have gut testing where you can find out, hey, what's going on. You also have toxin testing, right? Like whether it's heavy metals or mycotoxins, or what can be nutritional deficiencies. There's a lot of different types of tests depending on what you're going through. And most of the time, yes, trying to find the root cause is very important, because for somebody, it can be an underlying mold issue, and others can be a candida problem or a mast cell problem that is causing their adrenal fatigue. So not only the hormones. And so, or the gut is also very big, right? So making sure that the gut is aligned, and having regular bowel movements every day that is not
Yep.
constipated is very, very important, right?
Yeah, on so many levels. And so I know for me, like I do a lot with lab testing as well, but generally the first step is I actually do a paper assessment of, different toxicity stuff, and just kind of narrow and hone it in for you on like, these are some areas maybe we should explore more that are probably at the root. And I don't know, do you guys do something similar, or do you have a sequela that you use with people?
Yeah. Trying to see which circuit might be the problem and then just
Mhm.
honing in on what testing to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Because
Yeah.
it can get pricey, right? With all these
Yeah,
functional
it's a
tests,
lot.
but figuring out what is important. We take insurance for most of our patients. So that's why we always start with blood
Okay.
tests too, and
Yeah.
doing a elite workup, making sure everything looks good. Um,
Yeah.
and so we do both.
Great. Well, in kind of any parting thoughts or last tips you want to share with anybody, and definitely how to connect with you guys and kind of find out more if they're interested.
Yeah. So if you feel like, hey, I feel alone, there's no one to help me, there is people to be able to help you. Like I do telemedicine in over 20 states, right? And so if you need to find a provider or you need to learn more or educate yourself, education is key, like the first step to knowledge. So
Yeah.
read and listen more to these podcasts. Yeah, I also have a podcast with the Dr. Lamb show. And so like see how to get to the root cause is very important, and don't just brush off your symptoms. You are important as a working woman and high functioning woman. Take the time to take care of yourself so that you can take care of those around you, right? And we help people become more functional and to do what they love. So uh, we're giving out a free gift. If you are listening to this, go to lambclinic.com/gift and you can get our adrenal fatigue starter kit for free. So it's like a 500 page textbook on adrenal fatigue. And we also have an e-cookbook that you can have. Both are ebooks, and you can get it by going to lambclinic.com/gift. And if you ever need help, definitely give us a call. We do consultations too. But Dr. Swenson also, I'm sure, helps lots and lots of women. So I'm just grateful to be here and be able to get more and more women to understand what they're going through. That's what we're passionate to empower people to take control of their health.
Yeah, absolutely. And like a really big key case takeaway with this is don't normalize it. If you're struggling with not feeling well,
Yes.
we got to
Yes.
ask why. Like we start digging
Yes.
and ask the why. So awesome.
Very.
Well, Dr. Carrie, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing some of your knowledge and expertise around this. And
Thank you for having me. It's good to
absolutely.
talk.